G'day guys, Glenn here. We're still reeling about the visitor we had here yesterday. 1,000 race starts, over 200 wins, and over 100 pole positions. Mate, John Bowe, he's a legend.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for the invitation.
Thanks for turning up and have a look at our little museum here.
What a fantastic, honestly, it is the best museum I've ever been to, I think.
Well, one of the things I was going to ask you, you've obviously seen lots of different museums around the place, and this is only a new one as far as museums go.
Yeah.
And it's set out differently to normal ones, or?
Well, I haven't been to the Peterson one in America, but I've been to some in Europe, and I mean, this is better because it's got such a diverse range of cars, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you're interested in.
Yeah, for sure.
There's something here that would excite you.
Yeah. The biggest thing I felt when I get in the place is all the memories, because as you said, the diverse type of cars here, you've got a memory with every aisle you walk up, and you can relate to so many different things.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the truth.
Yeah. Was there an area that you gravitated more to, certain other areas, like like the European cars or the Australian cars? Or
I grew up in a Holden family, which is funny because I now have quite an involvement with Ford products. The reason we're here is with Sinclair Ford. But my love is of European cars, really. Like, I love European cars. Yeah. And the funny, down the back there's a little Volkswagen small window Beetle.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that was one of my first cars.
Is that right?
So I had some very funny times in that because I was 15 and I used to take our girls in it. So
one thing I love is...
They didn't know I was 15.
One of the things I love is you often see people just standing and staring, and it's almost as they're going down memory lane, standing in front of their cars, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Like I've owned quite a few Porsches in my life, and there's lots of Porsches here that I wished I hadn't have sold, and it's great. But also the Ferraris and there's all these French cars. It's incredible. I mean, I don't know where they all come from.
I have to ask for the museum's sake, have you got a favourite car here?
The Porsche Carrera GT, I think, is probably the car I would enjoy driving and owning most. I think they're a fabulous car.
Yeah.
But there's too many to pick, really, isn't it?
For sure. Is there a type of car that you've always wanted to have a crack at? You haven't got a chance to sit in one yet, or?
I've driven most cars, honestly. Because of my involvement with unique cars, I get to drive lots of different cars. I've never driven a Bugatti though, but I can because I know people that have got them. Yep. But I haven't got around to it yet. Yep. No, not really. I just like driving.
Being lucky enough to give them a go.
Yeah, most of them. I've driven big American cars. I've driven European, old, new. Driven them Bentleys and all sorts of things. So they all have their things. They all have their. The interesting part about some of the cars here, not all of them are exotics and not all of them are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you can get as much pleasure out of a $15,000 car as you can out of a $15 million car, to be honest. So it's a big world, the car world.
Well, one thing I was going to say is about, you've been a professional racing car driver, you're surrounded by ballistic cars on a regular basis, but it's these daily drivers that we see in the backgrounds here, the old Holdens, the old Fords. They're wonderful to just go and see.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? I like some of the old Holdens particularly. My nana had an early model 48 215 when I was a very small kid, and my mum had an FJ later on. I used to drive up our normal domestic driveway, which is normal size block, in my mum's FJ when I was a little boy, and I'd changed from first to second to third, all in the space of the driveway. So obviously I had the madness early.
That's it. Yeah. Now I've got to ask a couple of racing questions, all right, because get a few mates off my back and a few people here. Now I've got to touch on a few weeks ago at Winton. Yeah. Mate, I watched the video you posted on Facebook of the last position to first position in-car video. I had to watch it twice.
I thought you were going to watch the crash.
Well, I'll talk about it in a minute, but first
I got the broken ribs to show for that.
Yes. I can't believe, I've been lucky enough to actually be in a Toronto around Emerald Raceway, and they are a car to really muscle around. They don't drive easily.
Oh, these ones are good. These are better than they ever were.
It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, no, there's a few of them in the category now, and people quite often ask me, is the Toronto the car to have? It's not, but a Toronto was a good car in its day.
Yep.
and it's still a good car, and a 69 Mustang was a good car in its day.
Yep.
Consequently, it still makes a good touring car masters car, and the same for, you know, XB, XC coupes and things
Yep.
like that. If they were good in their day, they have obviously got the basis for being a good race
For
car,
sure.
but we have better scientific brakes. They're not great big brakes, but we have better shock absorbers. We have lots of better stuff than they had.
Yep.
You know, I'd love to have a car like I've got and race it at Bathurst in 1975
Oh,
or
of
something. You
course.
would have won by 30 laps.
But the behind the scenes of all this is definitely the crew.
Yes.
The crew is like an unsung hero. I know when I was involved with racing in quite a few different categories, the race day is the icing on the cake.
Yeah. No,
It's
that's very true.
all the work that happens in the workshop and what happens there. Mate, you must have had some terrific crews over the time.
Yes, I have. Yeah. You know, I mean, the drivers, doesn't matter what category you're in, the driver always gets the accolade, but without the people behind the scenes, and this can be in V8 supercars, Formula One, whatever,
Yeah.
the driver doesn't get to do anything. So over the years, I can track my success, which goes up and down,
Yeah.
by the people that were around me, you know, and when you've got
Yeah,
good
right.
people around you, it's much easier to have success.
Yeah.
So at times, even the 11 years I spent with Dick Johnson's team, the you know, changing staff and changing circumstances and things, but when we had the best tight-knit, dedicated group of people is when we went the best.
Yeah.
And you'd lose a couple of key people and you wouldn't go quite as well, and you'd be struggling in certain areas. So it's very much a people business, and you know, you need to look after the people that look after you.
For sure. Now also, Winton on the same weekend, race 2, didn't have the same outcome as race 1.
No.
And you've been pretty lucky with injuries as far as time goes, but this time you caught the rough end of the stick.
I caught the rough end of the seat. Yeah, no, I was involved in an accident, as people would know, and unfortunately I got sort of T-boned into the fence, and it must have just been a weird angle that the car went in at, and
Right.
it broke through my ribs down the left-hand side.
Yeah, right.
So if you look at any of the in-car stuff, it's quite funny because I offer a few expletives and judgments about some of the other drivers, which I don't take back.
Yes, sometimes people deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely. On that one they did.
Now, the next thing we want to know about, of course, is the Tirana.
Yeah.
How much damage was done to that, and what sort of condition it is now? I mean,
Well, it's nearly fixed. It's going to be, hopefully, this time next week it'll be well on the way to Darwin. So it had front chassis rails, which they're relatively soft in. The same with HQs. They've got long, skinny chassis rails.
Right.
They were all bent, so they had to be pulled straight. Front suspension, both sides, top and bottom arms, because they're all custom-made things. So they were both sides were damaged. The steering rack was damaged. The rear Watts linkage frame was damaged, and then all the outside bodywork.
Yeah, okay.
You know, we just converted it to an A9X, so we put a different bonnet scoop, different guards, and put the flares on.
yes.
So we don't need just done that. It was just spent 15 grand on it. Now it's all wrecked, so that's all had to be replaced. So it's been a bit of a, you know, it's not the end of the world, but it's not an easy, when you're running, you know, a limited budget, you don't get millions of dollars
For sure.
like supercars do.
For sure.
And so,
It's
yeah.
coming out of someone's pocket.
Yeah, it's coming out of mine.
There you go. There you go.
And I'm not happy about it.
One thing, another thing I'd like to know about is, I've got to read this out because I can't remember these details. Your diverse driving abilities. You go from wrangling a 360 Ferrari GT, back to a BA Falcon, then to a Lamborghini Gallardo GT3, then onto a Chev Camaro, all at the same time.
Yeah.
You must be so lucky that Western Star didn't ring you up and ask you to drive as well.
They wouldn't trust me with anything bigger than a 1-tonner.
Ooh,
Because
wee.
I'd run over somebody. If I had a little Toyota truck when I had open wheelers in the 80s, and I stayed at a motel in Sydney racing at Oran Park, and it had one of those Luton bodies on the back.
Yeah.
When I left on Monday morning, I knocked down the bloody the awning, so I wouldn't trust myself
The
in a Western
driver.
Star. But I mean, I guess in my early years, you used to try and drive as much stuff as you could. So I think, you know, your versatility comes from, firstly, whether you're you love it, which I do, and secondly, you know, with experience, you just get lots of experience, and I never think about it too much. I can drive most cars. I haven't come across one I can't drive yet. So it's just, I guess I'm lucky in some ways.
Now, another thing I'd like to talk about, which is close to me, is about the black dog and the depression. You've had a bit of a bout and a bit of a run through the years.
Yes.
It come to a big grinding halt for you. I had a similar thing happen to me, where my life come to a big grinding halt in a short time, and it's something you can't explain. It's something you can't explain to people how much it really affects you.
No.
And it takes a fair bit to turn around.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean it's different for a lot of us, a lot of people. A lot of people suffer from it. Men more so than women, but it's not, you know, women aren't immune from depression, anxiety and mental illness, but, you know, to be able to try and help and do something about it, which we try and do in a small way, is self-satisfying. It's nice to do. In my case, depression is never that far away, you know, it's just under the surface, so if I can operate above the cauldron, that's good for me.
Yeah.
And
it's
but
constant
it's not,
maintenance.
Yeah, it is. But it's not. It's a terrible thing to go through, and for anybody that is, you know, suffering from any sort of mental illness, I feel for them very much.
And we also promote to if you feel you're that way, to actually go and do something about it, because for most people, it is approachable and it is maintainable with the right team around you. And it's hard to get the right team around you at times as well. Family's number one important.
Absolutely, but I mean, you need to go and see your doctor first of all. The thing is, which I did in early times, is you ignore it at your own peril. It gets worse, and you get into a spiral of, you know, where you can't see any end to it. So the best thing to do is to go and see your doctor, and then from there you go to various actions to take, but the first thing to do is to go and see your GP. So anybody that, and you know, there is a bit of a stigma there seems to be about particularly blokes talking about it, but there's no disgrace. In depression's case, it's the brain chemicals get out of whack. So you know, there's lots of different mental illness, but in my case it was depression. So so you just got to seek some help. Everybody should seek some help if they feel it even starting.
For sure. And it's days like today when you can actually come to the museum and see some wonderful things like this. It's one of those days where you can get out to, you know, smell the oil, can't you? It's just wonderful to actually to kick back and relax and enjoy yourself for a change too.
Well, to be around these cars like this, it's just fabulous. You know, it's this cars that, you know, you dream of seeing. You know, so it's not just.
And a lot of these cars are actually out of your average person's hands. Yeah, so to be able to actually go and see them in one place is truly amazing.
Can I ask a question then? Do they get driven regularly, or they get exercised?
They do get circulated a little bit. Some of them, not all of them. They do get circulated a little bit, but they are for sale.
Oh, so everything's for sale?
Everything's for sale. Every car you see is for sale.
Better see if we can get that Pats Lotto ticket up.
Mr. John, thank you very, very much for talking to me. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. It's been really a privilege to be here.